Welcome listeners, today's show is going to be all about dyslexia within the primary school setting. I have two guest speakers with me today, Mrs Martin from Newman Primary School and Shanon, who is a university student that suffers with dyslexia.
Hello.
Hi.
First of all, I'd like to ask you both on what you think dyslexia is. According to Oxford Dictionary, dyslexia is a disorder that involves difficulty in learning to read and interpret words, but it does not affect general intelligence. Do you both agree with this statement? Do you agree with it, Miss Martin?
I would agree with that, Kayleigh, because with the right tools, children can exceed their expected levels.
How about you, Shanon?
I would, but I want to define it as a disorder, as this allows a negative outlook on dyslexia, and it shouldn't be labelled.
Yeah. So are there anything that teachers can do in the classroom in order to help a dyslexic child learn better and more effectively?
Yes, Kayleigh, we like to use recording equipment, as we do like to use coloured paper. We use this across the board for all children in the class, so nobody's feeling left out against their peers.
Personally, I don't find coloured paper useful. Over the years, I've learned to cope with black and white paper, but I do use highlighters to express important information, and personally wish recording equipment was provided so I could refer back to lectures.
I've heard that children with dyslexia often display disruptive behaviour in the classroom. Is this true, Mrs Martin?
It is a common thing to see, and we do see it quite a lot. So in relation to the deficit model, it is vital that none of the staff in the school see this disruptive behaviour, that the children portray in a negative way at all, but instead the staff should know how to deal with the behaviour and understand the disruptiveness. It's just one child's way to learn or cope with the situation at the time. We would never put a child down about this, as this could massively affect their confidence and self-esteem.
Thanks for that, Mrs Martin. So has there ever been a time where you've seen dyslexia as a problem?
Is that again to me, Kayleigh? I would never use the term problem, as this is seen as dyslexia as a negative thing, which is something we do not want to do. It is vital we see dyslexia in a positive light. However, it is still something that needs to be addressed and considered in order to support the children that do have it.
What are your thoughts on this, Shanon?
I wouldn't say dyslexia is a problem, but I think it's hard for teachers and individuals to provide the right support.
Yeah. According to Cooper's report called A Social Model of Dyslexia, it can become a barrier for some individuals due to unnecessary difficulties. Can any of you think of some unnecessary difficulties?
Reading is a difficulty for myself, but I think with the right support I can overcome this.
Thanks for sharing that useful information, Shanon. Linking in with this, according to the British Dyslexia Association, they want a world where dyslexia is identified early. Do you think we have one now?
I would say it's getting better, but I would like to see it improve.
How about you, Mrs Martin?
Well, here at Newman Primary, we can and do identify with children with dyslexia as young as reception age. However, it is important that all staff have awareness on dyslexia and the signs it does bring. All we can do as a school is put special provisions in as teachers in order to raise self-esteem and confidence.
A question for you now, Mrs Martin. From the Dyslexia Handbook, it states that 3 in every 4 teachers felt ill-prepared by their teacher training to identify and support a child with dyslexia. How did you find your teacher training?
Been in teaching for a long time. At the beginning, as Shanon said earlier, things have improved. So I had brief training on dyslexia, but not a massive amount. However, at Newman Primary now, we always welcome outside training, and because dyslexia is seen as a special need, when the Children's Act legislation came into force in 2014, it has become easier to identify with the signs of a pupil that may be displaying these certain behaviours. However, I personally would like to see more training, because there's always room for improvement and resources.
Dyslexia wasn't really known when I was at primary school, but the training has improved a lot.
Yeah. It's really important to highlight that dyslexia doesn't just affect you negatively, but it can also give you many strengths. Shanon, do you agree with this?
I have developed many strengths over the years in problem solving and coming up with fast resolutions which suit many people. It's also made me very determined in finishing my higher education.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Shanon. It's really good to hear that you're not just seeing the negative side of your dyslexia. Just wondering now, what funding is available now in schools for dyslexia? Do you know, Mr Martin?
As I said, all of the funding used for dyslexia comes from the Special Educational Needs Fund. as dyslexia is now seen as a special educational need. However, more funding would be great to support that in other ways.
There wasn't much funding whilst I was at school, but the funding has improved and it is more recognised now.
I'd just like to track you both to this image on the screen now. This is a source taken from the Dyslexia Handbook. Shannon, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this image. Are you able to relate to any of the experiences?
I haven't personally, but it's quite upsetting that this little boy felt this way because of something that he couldn't help. It's his disability, and for him to be told that his brain doesn't work properly is very problematic.
Yeah,
it's heartbreaking more to say. To know that he was also labelled as a bad child, where he was trying to express his feelings.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know more about his story as he grew up and to see if it was a self-fulfilling prophecy which played out under the labels that he was targeted under.
Okay, thanks for that. Just to end this interview off now, what are your main tips and advice would you give to individuals that think they have dyslexia or have been diagnosed?
My main tip is not to doubt yourself because it's the worst thing to do. You are clever, you just express yourself in a different way to your peers. Have the confidence to ask for help. It's acceptable. It's not a bad thing and no one should ever see it as a bad thing.
Miss Martin?
Yeah,